Good morning, good people. This is your PooleProof wisdom moment. Lately it seems like almost every other day, well, scratch that, like every day, there's a conversation that ensues with someone somewhere about things that always leave me a little perplexed by the time the conversation is over. I come across so many people who, in the course of that conversation I'm having with them, tell me about things where they are going to keep doing what they're doing because they don't want to give up on it. That can be a relationship. Oh my gosh. I lose track of the number of people who are telling me that they're going to keep trying to work with their relationship even when it's not working. And they have all kinds of reasons. They have, kids. We're keeping it going for the kids. We're keeping it going because, I still believe something's there. Reason after reason. There are people who are in miserable situations at work. I mean, literally, where it's making them physically ill. But you ask them why they don't do something different, and they will say, I've never given up on anything in my life, and I'm not going to let this be the thing that I give up on. Time after time, situation after situation, people think that somehow, when they are going to look at the things in their life that are not making them happy, that are in fact breaking them down, making them miserable, sometimes, as I mentioned, even making them physically ill, that there is some badge of courage that's worth pursuing to say, I didn't give up. Yay, team, I didn't give up. I dealt with it and I went through it. Now look at me now. I'm sick, I'm miserable, and I don't know why I put myself through that. And every time I'm having that conversation, I do a little bit of thinking before I determine whether I'm going to say what I ultimately end up saying to these people. Because I do care about their well-being. And sometimes when you are a good friend, and I mean a really good friend, you have to do the thing that no one wants you to do, but that it's your job to do anyway, and that's to tell the truth. And that truth, good people, is that sometimes when you're going through all the things that you're going through, instead of looking for reasons to convince yourself that it's worth staying and that anything that you do would be giving up, you have to understand there is a distinct difference between giving up and having had enough. That's right. Giving up is a perspective that we use to somehow put the entire responsibility for a situation on on our shoulders to repair, our shoulders to address, our shoulders to get through. Sometimes, even with your best efforts, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, it's not meant for you. It's not the experience you're supposed to be having. And the only thing to realize is that you aren't doing anything wrong when you realize that that is the end. It is done. It is over. And instead of thinking of it as giving up, which again ties it back to you, you have to realize that the only thing you really need to tie back to you is knowing what your deal breakers are, what your limits are. That's the reason I say there's a distinct difference between giving up and knowing when you've had enough. When you've had enough, knowing that you've tried your best, you've done everything you could, and that no matter what your efforts are, and even the efforts of the other individual or the circumstance that you find yourself in, that it's not going to improve. It's not going to get any better. And the only thing you can anticipate is it's going to get worse. You've got to have the strength and the courage to say to yourself, I've had enough. I'm not giving up. I've had enough. And when you had enough, that's the point when you start to look at the ways that you have available to you to rework your life, to rebuild it from the ground up. You aren't looking back and wondering, could you have done something more? Were you responsible for this outcome? You are simply saying, this is my saturation point, and I'm going to build my life from this point forward. So whenever you are in that position where you may find yourself thinking, oh, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm not going to do this. Give yourself a chance to really sit down, think through it, and ask yourself the essential questions of whether or not you've done everything you can possibly do to make it work, to make it right, to endure it, to succeed, whatever the circumstance, event, individual may be. And if the answer to that question is honestly, and you know what that is honestly that you've done everything, that's all the proof you need that this isn't giving up. This is having enough and giving yourself the license and the freedom to move forward and move on, regardless of what anyone else may think about it. Once you do that, and you get used to making that decision over and over again, based on what you know is your limit, you're going to be better off. And anyone involved with you or any circumstance you're going to be in is going to improve as a direct result of you removing yourself from the situation. Because sometimes others need us to take the first steps so that they can figure out what's right for them. Situations require us to remove ourselves from them so that the others who are left to deal with it can figure it out without our influence. That is growth. That is opportunity, and that is the truth about what you are dealing with and what you are going through. Let this be your mantra. There is a distinct difference between giving up and having enough. You know what that difference is. And that is your PooleProof Wisdom Moment for today. Find my books available online at booksellers everywhere and on PooleProofBooks.com. The third book, as I keep repeating and hope that you're paying attention, is available in audio form on Audible. You can also find my podcast, PooleProof Wisdom, available on podcast platforms everywhere. And this video series, PooleProof Wisdom Moments, available on the YouTube channel under Charles K. Poole. That's my wisdom for today, good people. Make sure you make it a good one.